Is anybody still there? Are you still there? Anybody? Everybody left. Everybody left. Well, I understand. Everybody decided to go. Jay, you found your way back. Whew. I'm sorry about that. It's a really windy day here. Really windy day here in Georgia, and something just kind of played. So, I guess I'll do this for 2 or 3. Olympia, are you back? Mag, are you back? Brian, are you back? Brown, are you back? Olympia, George, are you guys there? Oh, I'm so sorry. That is not how it usually works around here. I try really, really hard to let you know how important you are in regards to making sure that this stuff all works. So we should be deep into our brand new book right now. Hello. It is good to see you. So I want to start by saying a couple things. One, with that little bit of mistake, we just realized that sometimes it happens. It's kind of like, have you ever had like a grumpy little brother or sister or a dog or a cat or a grumpy old dad or mom who kind of like, they just keep talking. They need to have conversation and it's getting in the way of your ability to read. That's kind of what just happened to me. I was like, I was all comfortable and getting ready to read a brand new book. And then all this stuff happened. And so I had to go find a different place. And so I found one of my backup places. Thank goodness I have some. So, oh, Yana, Zapravada, you're here. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Oh, I'm sorry about being so sloppy in regards to it. I want to take you guys on a journey. We have just finished an amazing story where the relationship between a human and an animal fills a world that we had never been to before, the Ozark Mountains. And now we are going to enter another world, but it's going to start from a different side. And you're going to know that this is a fiction book, a fantasy fiction book, because it comes from the side of the animals. And there will be some humans who come in, but they are not the main characters. They are very important characters. So now, oh, Daniel Blaze, you're here too. Okay, so here's the other thing that I want to make sure that you understand before we get started. As I said at the beginning of Where the Red Fern Grows, our promise is that we will be here for about a half an hour from the time I begin to read until the time I end. I want you to be present and accounted for as often as you can. I want you to try your best to find that consistent, but I also want you to understand many of you are experienced readers. There are some new, younger readers who are also getting involved. So we've been teaching them about things like verbal to visual pictures, like drawing pictures and using text and just drawing while they listen to the story so that they have this historic collection of ideas. Those of you who are in the O'Keefe Class of Excellence, you guys know what I'm talking about. And I always, like Sean B., you know that I appreciate when you send me examples of that. And so I'd love for you to do the same thing. Woo! Ellie's here too. Okay, so we are having a huge group. I'm so glad to see everybody here. And we are going to get into a brand new story. Now, because we have a voting situation, I don't know which story we're going to read. And I don't know. I always like to start with a brand new book. So I had to order my book today. So I'm going to have to be reading offline, which looks different than me having a book in my hand. So plain and simple, this is all you need to remember. 1, be here as often as you can. And if you can't be here, set a time to watch it so that you can be here as often as possible. It's so much more fun when we're doing this live and I get to watch you guys have conversation and you guys are friendly. Yesterday we finished crying. Yesterday, we cried our eyes out. We cried our eyes out because we lost some very important characters in our life. This book should not make you cry. This book is going to make you giggle. It's going to make you feel a little bit like, oh, it's going to make you feel amazing. And this is what I want to ask you before we start. Remember, at the beginning of a book, we are being dropped into a brand new world. We're being dropped into a brand new world that is brand new to us. It's kind of like waking up in a dream. Like you have to kind of figure out where you are. You have to find out where your setting is. Like, where am I? What I want to tell you as you begin reading with me today, I want you to just sit back and I want you to absorb. We're going to read like 5 to 6 chapters today. This isn't like Where the Red Fern Grows, where you can only read one chapter in 38 minutes. Like, we're going to read a whole bunch. Now, Jay Patel, you got to get focused now. It's time for you not to be playing with the keyboard. It's time for you to sit back, and it's time for you to start doing what you can to absorb. Look for a problem. Look for your main character and get to know your setting. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to announce our very next book in the Mr. O Reads series. It's called The Tale of Despereaux. I will tell you that there's a play on the name tail, the word tail. We studied today homophones, ring, ring, one sound, different words. Tale, T-A-L-E, like the story. Now, Mag, you're back. I've been waiting for you. I've been waiting. Jensen B, you're back. I'm going to tell you, I'm sorry, there's not a dog in this story, but I will tell you that you're going to like this story a lot. All right, now we have everybody here. We are now reading the tale of Despereaux, and we begin at this very moment. Now, I'm sorry, I won't always look up at you in the eyes because I'm working on reading it. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the tale of Despereaux. The good thing is that I can read in different voices when I'm reading this one. So many awesome characters. I want to find out who your favorite ones are. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the tale of Despereaux. Book the first. A mouse is born. I repeat, a mouse is born. Are you ready? Okay, very good. Now, this story begins within the walls of a castle with the birth of a mouse, a small mouse, the last mouse born to his parents and the only one of his litter to be born alive. "Where are my babies?" said the exhausted mother when the ordeal was through. "Show me to my babies." The father mouse held the one small mouse up high. "There is only this one," he said. "The others are dead." "Mon Dieu! Just the one baby?" "Just the one. Will you name him?" "All of that work for nothing," said the mother. She sighed. "It is so sad. It is such the disappointment." She was a French mouse who had arrived at the castle long ago in the luggage of a visiting French diplomat. Disappointment was one of her favorite words. She used it often. "Will you name him?" repeated the father. "Will I name him? Will I name him? Of course I will name him, but he will only die like the others. Oh, sad, so sad. Oh, such the tragedy." The mouse mother held a handkerchief to her nose and then waved it in front of her face. She sniffed. "I will name him, yes. I will name him. I will name this mouse Despereaux, for all the sadness, for the many despairs in this place. Now, where is my mirror?" Her husband handed her a small shard of mirror. The mouse mother, whose name was Antoinette, looked at her reflection and gasped aloud. "Today," she said to one of her sons, "get for me my makeup bag. My eyes are afright." While Antoinette touched up her eye makeup, the mouse father put Despereaux down on a bed made of blanket scraps. The April sun, weak but determined, shone through a castle window and from there squeezed itself through a small hole in the wall and placed one golden finger at Despereaux, their new littlest brother. "His ears are too big," said his sister Merlot. "Those are the biggest ears I have ever seen." "Look," said his brother named Furlough. "His eyes are open. Pa, his eyes are open. They shouldn't be open." It is true. Despereaux's eyes should not have been open, but they were. He was staring at the sun reflecting off his mother's mirror. The light was shining onto the ceiling in an oval of brilliance, and he was smiling up at the sight. "There's something wrong with him," said the father. "Leave him alone." Despereaux's brothers and sisters stepped back away from the new mouse. "This is the last," proclaimed Antoinette from her bed. "I will have no more mice babies. They are such a disappointment. They are hard on my beauty. They ruin for me my looks. This is the last one. No more." What'd you think? Did you hear a few of the things that I did? "The last one," said the father, "and he'll be dead soon. He can't live, not with his eyes open like that." But reader, he did live. He did live. This is the tale of Despereaux. Okay, before we move on to chapter 2, who have you heard about? Somebody very important was born. Somebody's mother was not very happy. Somebody's father thinks that he'll be dead soon and there won't be any more babies. We've met a brother, Furlough. We've met a sister, Merlot. Did you get that? Where are we? Where are we? It's April. And what was strange about Despereaux? What was interesting about him? What features did you notice? Did you notice anything strange? One, he was very small, according to Merlot. Second, he had gigantic ears. Gigantic ears. And finally, because of that April sun shining through a window and through a crack and bouncing off of a mirror and onto the ceiling, little Despereaux had his eyes open, which is brand new and unusual to everything. Oh, I get so excited with this book. It has been such a long time since I've read it. Chapter 2, such a disappointment. Despereaux Tilling lived, boys and girls, but his existence was cause for much speculation in the mouse community. "He's the smallest mouse I've ever seen," said his Aunt Florence. "It's ridiculous. No mouse has ever been this small, not even a Tilling." She looked at Despereaux through narrowed eyes, as if she expected him to disappear entirely. "No mouse," she said again, "ever." Despereaux, his tail wrapped around his feet, stared back at her. "Those are some big ears he's got, too," observed his Uncle Alfred. "They look more like donkey ears, if you ask me." "They are obscenely large ears," said Aunt Florence. Despereaux wiggled his ears. His Aunt Florence gasped. "They say he was born with his eyes open," whispered Uncle Alfred. Despereaux stared hard at his uncle. "Impossible," said Aunt Florence. "No mouse, no matter how small or obscenely large-eared, is ever born with his eyes open. It simply isn't done." "His pa, Lester, says he's not well," said Uncle Alfred. Despereaux sneezed. He said nothing in defensively small. His ears were obscenely large. He had been born with his eyes open, and he was sickly. He coughed and sneezed so often that he carried a handkerchief in one paw at all times. He ran temperatures. He fainted at loud noises. Most alarming of all, he showed no interest in the things a mouse should show interest in. He did not think constantly of food. He was not intent on tracking down every crumb left on the floor. While his larger older siblings ate, Despereaux stood with his head cocked to one side, holding very still. "Do you hear that sweet sound?" he said. "I hear the sound of cake crumbs falling out of people's mouths and hitting the floor," his brother Tulisse said. "That's what I hear." "No," said Despereaux. "It's something else. It sounds like, honey." "You might have big ears," said Toulouse, "but they're not attached right to your brain. You don't hear honey. You smell honey. When there's honey to smell, which there isn't." "Son," barked Despereaux's father, "snap to it. Get your head out of the clouds and hunt for crumbs." Did you hear the idiom? Get your head out of the clouds? He's not up in the clouds. He's right on the ground. But his dad said, "Get your head out of the clouds." What was he hearing? He was actually hearing honey. Please, said his mother, look for the crumbs. Eat to make your mamma happy. You are such the skinny mouse. You are a disappointment to your mamma. Sorry, said Despereaux. He lowered his head and sniffed the castle floor. But reader, he was not smelling. He was listening with his big ears to the sweet sound that no other mouse could hear. Chapter 3. Once Upon a Time is the title of this chapter. On a tour of the castle to demonstrate the art of scurrying. Move to side, instructed Furlough, scrabbling across the waxed castle floor. Look over your shoulder all the time, first to the right, then to the left. Don't stop for anything. But Despereaux wasn't listening to Furlough. He was staring at the light pouring in through the stained-glassed windows of the castle. He stood on his hind legs and held his handkerchief over his heart and stared up into the brilliant light. Furlough, he said, what is that thing? What are all these colors? Are we in heaven? Cripes, shouted Furlough from a far corner. Don't stand there in the middle of the floor talking about heaven. Move, you're a mouse, not a man. You've got to scurry. What? Said Despereaux, still staring at the light. But Furlough was gone. He had, like a good mouse, disappeared into a hole in the molding. Despereaux's sister Merlot took him to the castle library, where light came streaming in through tall, high windows and landed on the floor in bright yellow patches. Here, said Merlot, follow me, small brother. I will instruct you on the fine points of how to nibble paper. Merlot scurried up a chair and from there hopped onto a table in which there sat a huge open book. This way, small brother, she said as she crawled onto the pages of the book, and Despereaux followed her from the chair to the table to the page. Now then, said Merlot, this glue here is tasty, and the paper edges are crunchy and yummy, like so. She nibbled the edge of the page and then looked over at Despereaux. You try, she said. First a bite of some glue, and then follow it with a crunch of the paper. Oh, and these squiggles, they are very tasty. Despereaux looked down at the book, and something remarkable happened. Themselves into shapes. The shapes arranged themselves into words, and the words spelled out a delicious and wonderful phrase. Once upon a time. Once upon a time, said Despereaux. What? Said Merlot. Nothing. Eat, said Merlot. He noticed the light. He heard the music. And when his sister was trying to get him to eat paper, he read the words. I couldn't possibly, said Despereaux, backing away from the book. Why? Said Despereaux, it would ruin the story. The story? What story? Merlot stared at him. A piece of paper trembled at the end of one of her indignant whiskers. It's just like Pa said when you were born. Something's not right with you. She turned and scurried from the library to tell her parents about this latest disappointment. Despereaux waited until she was gone, and then he reached out and with one paw touched the lovely words. Once upon a time. He shivered. He sneezed. He blew his nose into his handkerchief. Once upon a time, he said aloud, relishing the sound. And then, tracing each word with his paw, he read the story of a beautiful princess and the brave knight who serves and honors her. Despereaux did not know it, but he would need very soon to be brave himself. Do you hear that? Do you hear the moment of warning? He would soon need to be brave himself. Your brain should go, wait a second, what's he going to be needing to be brave of? I mean, he is a music hearing and book reading and light appreciating mouse, and no other mice can do that, can they? Despereaux did not know it, but he would need very soon to be brave. In the dungeon, there were rats, large rats, mean rats. Despereaux was destined to meet those rats. Reader, you must know that an interesting fate, sometimes involving rats, sometimes not, awaits almost everyone, mouse or man, who does not conform. Now, conform is an interesting word. As you look upon me, I have a feeling that some of you, kind of like maybe Merlot or Furlough or mom or dad, looked upon me the first time you saw me and said, "Ah, he looks kind of weird." Sometimes you would say, long hair on a guy, that's kind of weird. Sometimes you might say short hair on a girl, that's kind of weird. Or somebody who likes books, that's kind of weird. Or somebody who loves to color, that's kind of weird. Or somebody who likes to eat something that you don't like and you go, that's kind of weird. Or some friend of yours says, hey, maybe you shouldn't like this person because they're kind of weird. That's the definition of the word conform. Okay. I want to let you understand the words right here. These last words, I think, are very important for us as readers to understand that this author is talking to us. This author stops in the middle of a story and says, reader, that's you. This author wants you to hear this moment. Like the author is recognizing you as a part of this story. Reader, you must know that an interesting fate, sometimes involving rats, sometimes not, awaits almost everyone, mouse or man, who does not conform. Now, I want to tell you as my face starts to glow because of the beautiful light streaming through this beautiful May afternoon sky, I don't conform. Yes, I agree following rules is important. It's okay to be different. And I want you to know that as we get started. Now, I want to do a quick double check and say, are you interested in me reading a little bit more? It is 4:04. Today, I like to read more. Tomorrow, I'd kind of like to read more. So maybe I'll read until 4:15. Would that be okay? I'd like that. Okay. Whether you do or whether you don't, please come along with us. And if you do decide to get on out of here, then come back and watch this part because you need to know it. Otherwise, you won't have the whole story. Chapter 4. Enter the P. P-E-A. To me, that's a connection to a vegetable. P-E-A. P. Probably made somebody giggle out there because it always made me giggle as well. Chapter 4. Despereaux's brothers and sisters soon abandoned the thankless task of trying to educate Despereaux in the ways of being a mouse. And so Despereaux was free. He spent his days as he wanted. He wandered through the rooms of the castle, staring dreamily at the light streaming in through the stained glass windows. He went to the library and read over and over again the story of the fair maiden and the knight who rescued her, and he discovered finally the source of the honey-sweet sound. The sound, reader, was called music. Music. The sound was King Philip playing his guitar and singing to his daughter, the Princess P. P-E-A, every night before she fell asleep. Hidden in a hole in the wall of the princess's bedroom, the mouse listened with all his heart. The sound of the king's music made Despereaux's soul grow large and light inside of him. Oh, he said, it sounds like heaven. It smells like honey. He stuck his left ear out of the hole in the wall so that he could hear the music better. And then he stuck his right ear out so that he could hear. And then without any real planning on Despereaux's part, the whole of him was on display, all in an effort to get closer to the music. Now, while Despereaux did not indulge in many of the normal behaviors of mice, he did adhere to one of the most basic and elemental of all mouse rules. Do you know what the most elemental of all mouse rules is? Well, I'm going to let you know. Do not ever, under any circumstances, reveal yourselves to a human. Never let them know who you are. But the music, oh, the music. The music made him lose his head and act against the few small mouse instincts that he was in possession of. And because of this, he revealed himself. And in no time at all, he was spied by the sharp-eyed Princess P. Oh, Papa, she said, look, a mouse. The king stopped singing. He squinted. The king was nearsighted. Um, I'm nearsighted. I can't see things that are up close to me right now, and so I have to wear my glasses. I don't think kings ended up having nearsighted, so they end up squinting a whole bunch like that. The king stopped singing. He squinted. The king was nearsighted. That is, anything that was not right in front of his eyes was very difficult for him to see. Where? Said the king. There, said the Princess Pea. She pointed. That, my dear Pea, is a bug, not a mouse. It is much too small to be a mouse. No, no, it's a mouse, Daddy. A bug, said the king, who liked to be right. A mouse, said Pea, who knew that she was right. As for Despereaux, he was beginning to realize that he had made a very grave error. He trembled, he shook, he sneezed, and he considered fainting. He's frightened, said Pea. Look, he's so afraid he's shaking. I think he was listening to the music. Play something, Papa. A king play music? For think? Well, wouldn't that make this into some kind of topsy-turvy, wrong-headed world if a king played music for a bug? Papa, I told you he's a mouse, said the Pea. Please. Oh, well, if it will make you happy, I, the king, will play music for a bug. A mouse, corrected the Pea. The king adjusted his heavy gold crown. He cleared his throat. He strummed the guitar and started to sing a song about stardust. The song was as sweet as the light shining through the stained glass windows, as captivating as the story in his book. Despereaux forgot all his fear. He only wanted to hear the music closer. He crept closer, and then closer still, until, reader, he was sitting right at the foot of the king. Right at the foot of the king. Chapter 5. What Furlough saw. Boy, are there a lot of characters in this book. Do you remember who Furlough is? Tell somebody. Say it over there. Say it over there on the side. Say it over there. I dare you. Who is Furlough? Yeah. You're right. Bro. Yeah, bro. Good job. See, you guys are paying attention. Good job. Thanks, Jay, for not being like blah, 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 blah. All right, chapter 5. What Furlough saw. Furlough, the older brother of Despereaux. The Princess Pea looked down at Despereaux at the foot of the king. She smiled at him. And while her father played another song, a song about the deep purple falling over sleepy garden walls, the princess reached out and touched the top of the mouse's head. Despereaux stared up in wonder. The Pea, he decided, looked just like the picture of the Despereaux again, and this time Despereaux smiled back. And then something incredible happened. The mouse fell in love. I know, boys, you're probably like, ooh, yuck, ooh, in love, ooh. But I'm telling you, this leads for some really good stories. Pay close attention to how he deals with this love. Reader, you may ask this question. In fact, you must ask this question. Is it ridiculous for a very small, sickly, big-eared mouse to fall in love with a beautiful human princess named Pea? The answer is yes, of course it is. It's ridiculous. But then again, love is pretty ridiculous. But love can also be, and is also, wonderful, powerful. And Despereaux's love for the princess would prove in time to be all of these things: powerful, wonderful, and ridiculous. You're so sweet, said the princess to Despereaux. You're so tiny. As Despereaux looked up at her adoringly, Furlough happened to scurry past the princess's room, moving his head left to right, right to left, and back and forth. Cripes! Said Furlough. He stopped. He stared into the princess's room. His whiskers became as tight as bowstrings. Nice simile, isn't it? Tight as bowstrings. It's a comparison, using as or like. Cripes, said Furlough. He stopped. He stared into the princess's room. What Furlough saw was Despereaux, Tilling, sitting at the foot of the king of the castle. What Furlough saw was the princess touching the top of his brother's head. Cripes! Shouted Furlough again. Oh, cripes! He's nuts! He's a goner! And executing a classic scurry, Furlough went off to tell his father, Lester Tilling, the terrible, unbelievable. I love that word. You're going to be saying that from now on. You're going to be saying it all the time. Cripes! Because you know what it means. He cannot. He simply cannot be my son, Lester said. He clutched his whiskers with his paws and shook his head from side to side in despair. Of course he's your son, said Antoinette. What do you mean he is not your son? This is a ridiculous statement. Why must you always make these ridiculous statements? You, said Lester. This is your fault. The French blood in him has made him crazy. C'est moi, said Antoinette. C'est moi. Why must it always be I who takes the blame? If your son is such the desperate, it is as much my fault and your fault as it is yours and mine. Something must be done, said Lester. He pulled on a whisker so hard that it came loose. He waved the whisker over his head. He pointed it at his wife. He will be the end of us all, he shouted, sitting at the foot of a human king. Unbelievable, unthinkable. Oh, so dramatic, said Antoinette. Isn't she the dramatic one? She held out one paw and studied her painted nails. He's a small mouse. How much harm can he do? If there is one thing I have learned in this world, said Lester Tiller, it is that mice must act like mice, or else there is bound to be trouble. I will call a special meeting of the Mouse Council. Together, we will decide what must be done. Oh, said Antoinette, you and this council of the mouse. It's a waste of time, in my opinion. Don't you understand? Shouted Lester. He must be punished. He must be brought up before the tribunal. He pushed past her and dug furiously through a pile of paper scraps until he uncovered a thimble with a piece of leather strapped. Let me reread that. Until he uncovered a thimble with a piece of leather stretched across its open end. Stop. A thimble is a little bit of a strange thing. I wish I would have one. It's kind of like a little mini cup. A thimble, it still is used as anybody who does needlepoint, where they're poking a needle through cloth, and then they put it on their thumb or forefingers to protect them so that they don't poke their fingers, but they poke the thimble. A thimble is very small. It fits on your finger. So take a look at your finger and imagine just a little bit of a covering, kind of like that. A little bit of a covering. Usually they were made out of metal. And so you flip it upside down and it has an open space. You pull it off here and you put leather over the top. And what does that make? A drum. Until he uncovered a thimble with a piece of leather stretched across its open end. Oh, please, said Antoinette. She covered her ears. Not this drum of the Council of the Mouse. Yes, said Lester, the drum. He held it high above his head, first to the north, then to the south, then to the east, and then to the west. He lowered it and turned his back to his wife, closed his eyes and took a deep breath, and began to beat the drum slowly. One long beat with his tail, two staccato beats with his paw. Boom, tat, tat, boom, tat, tat, boom, tat, tat. The rhythm of the drum was a signal for the members of the Mouse Council. Boom, tat, tat, boom, tat, tat, boom, tat, tat. The beating of the drum let them know that an important decision would have to be made, one that affected the safety and well-being of the entire mouse community. Boom, tat, tat, boom, tat, tat, boom. End of chapter. I love this book so much. I want to tell you guys, ladies and gentlemen, we have made it through chapters 1 through 6 of the book Tale of Despereaux by the incredible author, Kate DiCamillo. I'm going to tell you, come back tomorrow. The council is going to have a meeting about this very strange mouse who can smell music, who can see the beautiful colors of the light, who can read the words upon a page, who can love the Princess P, and everybody is seemingly going against him except for the princess. I'm going to tell you, some of you are saying cripes like Furlough, but I'm going to tell you, please come back. You will not want to miss this story. You haven't even met the rat. You haven't even met Miggery Sow yet. Oh, you are going to have a wonderful time. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I want to tell you that I can't thank you enough. I'm sorry about the sloppiness at the beginning of our time together today. Thank you for everybody who joined us today. I ask if you would please come back tomorrow, 3:30, same time. Hopefully my Wi-Fi will be better and the wind will die down. But between now and then, please go outside, be barefoot, live your life, feel that wind, feel whatever it feels like wherever you are, and love the life that you've been graced. It is a beautiful day to be alive. Without further ado, you know what I say. I love you. Now, get out of here.